Hi, I am Dr. Melonie Boone, and welcome to episode 5 of our podcast, Intel Noir. Today we have myself and my lovely co-host who will introduce herself once again.
Hi, I'm Yayra Tsikudo, and I'm here with Melonie. Excited to be here once again with her.
Yes, so we don't have any guests today. Today's topic is going to be one that I actually talk about and joke about all the time, but we want to talk about finding your happy place. And so, you know, what is your happy place? How do you get there? I think we're in a world where there's so much hustle, everyone's moving, there's burnout, there's all of these things that are going on in the world, socially, politically, and sometimes it can be very difficult to figure out like where your happy place exists when there is so much chaos. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I actually started working very astutely on finding my happy place about almost 4 years ago when my mom passed away. And there was just like this big chasm slash gap in my world, and I couldn't figure out what was up or down, what happiness meant if I'd ever find it. And I went on kind of like this journey of self exploration to try to figure it out and discover it. I will say that I am not there yet. Like, I don't think I can tell you, like, this is exactly where my happy place is. But today we do want to just share some thoughts about our journey to finding our happy place in hopes of helping you. And then also just giving you some tips and some methods on ways that you can begin your journey or continue on your journey if you're already there. So Yara, I'm going to ask you first, like, what does finding your happy place mean to you? And do you feel like you found it yet?
I don't know if I've exactly found it, but I also think it's how you define it that determines if you found it. I don't think it's a moment where you just reach a certain level and you're like, all right, I'm happy, and then you're just happy for that. I think it's like specific moments in your life. So there are moments where you're like, all right, I feel happy, I feel content, I feel pleasure. I always use the word soft life because I try
Hmm.
to embody and be intentional about how I want to live my life and how I choose to live my life. So I think that happiness goes within that. So I think for me it's more of like moments. And so it could
Yeah.
be like a period last month, like a period of time last month or like last year or something like that. But I find out that most of the time my happy place tends to be when I travel because I'm in like
Oh,
a
yes.
different environment. There's like a different level of energy around me
Hmm.
and like you feel different. So I feel like majority of the time my happy place is wherever place I travel to. The last international place I was Ghana. Ghana is home. So I feel like that feels like my happy place because there's a level of peace. And I feel like peace too is part of like happiness or my happy place. So I think it just depends on who you are as a person. And I
Yeah.
feel like there are different like emotions that go with it. And for me, it's like content, peace, like just like pleasurable moments kind of thing. So I think that's what goes into it for me. How about you, Melanie?
Yeah. So for me, my happy place, if you ask anybody, they say is her bed because I spend 90% of my life pushing through the bullshit of the day so that I can get back to my comfy bed with all 8 of my pillows and just kind of melt away. But honestly, like I have worked really hard. I think my happy place is comes from two different directions. So it is my mindset is the
Mm,
first thing. And then the second place is my home, right? So I have two children with autism or on the autism spectrum. And we knew very early on with them that we had to create more of a peaceful, kind of serene environment because there's so much simulation outside of the house and bright lights and big noises and all of these kinds of things. So when my son was diagnosed when he was 4, some of the like tips that we got from OT and PT, physical therapists and occupational therapists was like, how can you create these quiet moments at home that help them to feel safe and surrounded and guarded? And that has grown over the years. So he's 22 now. My daughter was diagnosed when she was 4, I'm sorry, and she's 16 now, and we've always just tried to really have this peaceful, quiet environment at home. But I think the mindset piece is actually the most difficult for me to navigate because my mind can go from like happy to homeless in 2 seconds. I don't know how it does it. I'm sure other people have experienced like that voice in your head. I'm now learning that men don't have that voice in their head as much as women. So that may require some exploration and discovery, according to my husband. But really, there is a voice in my head that can take some of the smallest mistakes that I make or the smallest setbacks and really blow them up. And it wasn't until I realized what that was that I was able to then start, to take control of it. So I will literally be sitting here and I'll tell myself, like, that'll never happen. Like, you are being ridiculous right now. And so, my happy place is not only physical, but it's also a state of mind.
Mhm. I feel like
Yeah.
the voice in your head
So
sometimes.
when you think about,
Sorry, go ahead. No, I
go
was
ahead.
just saying, when it comes to like the voice in your head, I feel like that's a huge thing. Especially, I know a lot of people with anxiety experience that, where it's like
Yes.
the voice in it, like you're trying to control it, but it's so hard to control it because it's usually always a negative thing. So it's like the
Yes.
instead of like changing the language you tell yourself and how you speak to
Yes.
yourself. So I think that's an interesting thing you
Yeah.
brought up.
I think it took me, like, I started going to therapy, and I know like everyone, like, not a lot of people want to talk about the fact that they've gone to therapy, but I started going to therapy in 2016 when my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer. And then my husband got sick, and I literally was in a CVS parking lot. I was on my way to work. I stopped at CVS to get something. I don't even remember what. And I got back to the car. I'm like rushing. My husband's in the hospital. My mom's in a different hospital. The kids are with a new nanny. Then I got to go to work all day. And I couldn't move. And I was in the car and my heart started racing. I started crying uncontrollably. I couldn't even like dial my phone or anything. And I'm just sitting in the car, literally like couldn't take my hands off the steering wheel. And that went on for a few minutes. And I was finally able to call someone at work because work was right down the street. And I called and I asked her to walk to come get me so that she could drive me to work because it was like really uncontrollable. And that was a moment where I realized like I can't do this by myself. So if you were to ask me about happy place back then, I would have told you like that doesn't exist, right? Because not only did I have all of the pressures going on with family and illness and being a caregiver, but then I also had that voice in my head telling me he's gonna die, she's gonna die, the kids are gonna get kidnapped because you left them with this new nanny or babysitter that you've only known for like 2 seconds. And it's really challenging when you have that. And that's when I first learned that I have challenges with anxiety and depression. And
Mhm.
so I've always just kind of kept going, going, going and never stopping and not giving myself an opportunity to kind of process the things that are going on around me or realizing how much I take on myself to help care for others. And so my journey to getting to my happy place really started in the car that day.
Mhm.
And it started with the therapist who I am still with to this day. I have graduated to every other week. I have backtracked back to every week, as things happen and things progress in my life. But I can say, like, that was the start of me, trying to find my happy place and just figuring out what's best for me. Cause, like, I can't take care of others if I'm not taking care of myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always applaud anyone and also you like taking a step back to just say I need help and going to therapy because I've always been huge on therapy. I think I've told a few people, I don't know if I've told you this, I wanted to be a therapist when I was younger. So to me it's like so normal like having conversations with people and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to therapy." I'm just like, "Oh, to me it's super casual," but I know like it's such a huge deal to like
Yeah.
take a moment back and be like, all right, I'm gonna go to therapy. So I always applaud anybody who like takes a step back and goes to therapy. That's huge.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not easy to admit that you need it to yourself
Mhm.
and to others, especially
Yeah.
in some cultures. Like therapy is something, you don't talk about your business, right? Like, what are you going to go to this stranger for and tell them all of these things? And I'll tell you, even like when I first started going, the first year, maybe 2 year, I think, well, let me rewind. Like, she's probably just finding out in the last year some of the things that have gone on in my life because I went because I knew I needed it, but still stayed very guarded in what I told her and what I shared. And I really kept it to the specific like moment in time versus like, let's talk about these things in the past and how they kind of contribute to some of the cycles that you're seeing with the negative self-talk and things like that. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of hard to step out and say, I'm going to do it. And then I tell people, and some people are like, oh, you shouldn't tell people that. And I'm like, no, it has made me a happier, healthier person. So if you talk about finding your happy place, my happy place started with getting control of the negative self-talk. And, you know, I can be confident. I think like you can be confident, but still have a lot of self-doubt. And I think that's the category I was in, which
Yeah.
created more embarrassment, right, around having anxiety or feeling like, you know, the walls are closing in because outwardly I'm supposed to be this confident kind of figure that's taking care of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense for sure. And I feel like a lot of like anxiety, depression, like a lot of people experience that. So I think the more
Yeah.
you talk about it, the more people are aware of like other people experiencing it. So I think it's huge. And that's how you normalize these things. The more you talk
Yes.
about it, the more you normalize it.
Yes. Well, I tell everybody, I don't care. Like if somebody can get like a small fraction of the help that I've gotten over these past few years, I definitely want to share that. And it also like when you think about your happy place, like you're not going to be in that place constantly, right? And
Exactly.
so, you know, how do you kind of navigate the challenges and setbacks and still maintain focus on like being in your happy place?
Hmm. I feel like also happy places those days where you're having a bad day and you need to just take some time for yourself. I feel
Hmm.
like your happy place can also help with that because your happy place could be like, all right, I'm here with food
Yes.
that makes me happy. Like, let me go to a restaurant and eat just because I like food and I want to get out of my space and go here and try something new and be in that environment. I need a distraction. Let me get out of the house. Or like people going for a walk near the beach. Like all those places can be a happy place because those are your, even if they're like good distractions, I would say they are. So I think everybody just needs to find that space where they feel content, better, or like you feel things are not like when you say like things are closing in because
Yeah.
people do experience that, whether it's like with work, your family life, like everybody has that period where they're going through something and it feels tough and it feels like there's a lot going on and sometimes you just need that calm. I know for
Yeah.
me, usually after work I'm just like watching TV just because I'm like, all right, I've been at work, I've used my brain, I just need to tune it out. So I'm just gonna watch TV and watch some mindless TV just to get out of it. So I think it's just like finding that place or finding that thing that can give you a good distraction. So
Yeah. I like that too, like turning your brain off. Like, I don't think we really put value on how much we have to think and how many decisions we have to make in any given day. And so
correct.
I'm like you, like I tell people, like I've seen like every episode of Star Trek, all the movies, both of the animated series. Like those are ways that I can like just turn my brain off. There's no decisions that need to be made. I just finished watching 20 seasons of Grey's Anatomy over the last few months, which is a phenomenal show. Like, I don't know how I never saw it until now, and it's been on 20 years.
Yeah.
I was deeply invested in finishing it.
Yep.
But like those are some of the ways too, where like sometimes I just don't want to think. I don't want to make decisions. I don't care what's for dinner. Like I just want to be able to be at peace and be kind of quiet. And I talk a lot about being still, especially in a time where everything is moving so quickly. And it's like your natural reaction is to move with the tide, I think. And so, like, you see things on social media, and this person got that promotion, and I'm on LinkedIn, and this person's got like 50 awards, and I only got one. And like, you feel this like competitive drive to like do more and be in more places and accomplish more things. And sometimes you just have to be still, which I've actually been practicing that, which is very, very hard for me. So anyone who knows me really well knows that I typically am working like 4 or 5 jobs at one time and navigating a million different things. And I have worked really hard, especially in this past year, pulling back. And honestly, right now, I'm literally just working one job. And it sounds weird, but I didn't know that things could be this good when you're not being pulled in so many different directions. Because my entire adult life, there has been like this drive of I've got to support the family. I, you know, my husband and my kids, my sisters, my mother, like I've always just felt this pressure. I've got to make more money. I've got to be able to pay for this therapy or that therapy, or, this thing is summer camp is super expensive because it's a therapeutic camp. So I've always been like on this drive to make more so that I could do more and so that I could provide. And now I've been able to take a step back, and it's really bad. I got to come out of this curve because right now, after 5 o'clock, I literally just want to go to sleep. So I think I've over indexed in the wrong direction while trying to find balance with this new kind of stillness. But it's very hard for me. But again, like as I'm trying to find my happy place, one thing I do know is working 3 or 4 jobs is not the happy place. That is the stressful place, right? And so, it's necessary, right? I'm not saying that everyone can do that. I understand that it's kind of a gift and an honor to be able to say, like, I no longer need to work a full-time job plus 3 or 4 part-time jobs plus 2 to 4 businesses that I started plus this plus that.
Yeah.
But it definitely helps in kind of like this journey of discovery of like, for a while, I say, I don't even know who I am, right? Because I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm
Yeah.
I'm a business psychologist. I'm like, there were all of these different titles that you could put me under, but none of them were just Melonie. And
Mhm.
so in this journey to find my happy place, now it's like my happy place is who is just Melonie. And can I be okay with whatever that looks like? Right now it's too much sofa time, but I'm gonna get it right eventually.
Yeah, no, I feel you with the stillness because I feel the same way, especially like being in school all those times and like school is over. It's just me, just working. I work 8 to 4, and I'm like, all right, what do I do with my life now? So it's like
Hmm.
I feel that, and I'm still in that stage of like, what am I gonna do? And so I'm
Yeah,
like, am I gonna take classes? Am I just gonna relax? Am I gonna read a book? Am I just gonna keep watching TV shows? I think this year is my year of figuring out and trying new things, but it's also like I have to get up the house to go
yes,
explore those things and find those things and do those things. So I think
yeah,
I'm in that stage too. I'm like, all right, stillness, but maybe it's too much stillness and too much quiet. So I need to like get out of my comfort zone a little bit and just find things to do to occupy my time and those like fun things, not just things just to do, but like fun things that I
yeah,
can see and figure out if I enjoy these things or I don't, and then go on to the next thing, but like explore to find out what I enjoy doing and occupy my time more with those things. So I feel you with that. Sometimes the stillness is
yeah,
too much stillness, so that we become lazy and just want to stay on the couch and just watch shows. Well, at least for
yeah.
me in particular, but yeah, I'm like, I need to get out and do more stuff. So
Yeah, I love what you say about fun too. I know, like, I don't even know how to do that, right? So I'm learning, and I forgot about school, right? I didn't even add school into the equation of all of the other craziness that has gone on in the past 10 years.
right.
But like my husband laughs at me because he's like, you do not know how to have fun. And I'm like, but I'm trying, like reading this 1100-page book about Six Sigma black belt certifications is not fun. Like, it's got me excited. So I've been working on that too. And like, actually, I did something that I never do yesterday, day before yesterday. I had to go to the grocery store, and I actually stopped at Panera Bread and got some lunch by myself. And I'm now watching Private Practice, which was a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy. So I'm like deeply caught in the Grey's Anatomy thing. But I sat and like I watched the episode while I had my sandwich and stuff, and it was just nice and peaceful and quiet. And it was in between like work calls, but it still kind of fit. And so I know that's not exactly thrilling and the most fun thing ever, but on the scale of Melonie fun, I'm working my way up to like vacations or whatever. I don't even know what it is yet. But I'm trying to figure that out. And I think that's an important part too of finding your happy place is like, what are the things that you enjoy doing and how
Mhm.
can you have fun doing
You're right. I agree. I also did something similar, I think last week. So I went to
them?
check for get prescriptions and I was like, I'm hungry. So I also went to a restaurant. I went to the Cheesecake Factory because it was close by.
Ooh,
And
fancy.
I just like had lunch by myself. It was I think it's people find those things awkward, but it's once you do it, it's like, oh, it's not bad. I've done that before where I've just gone to eat. I'm like, I'm hungry and I'm going home or something or somewhere. I'm like, I'm just gonna grab food. I find that fun because it's food.
Yeah.
It's food involved. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
involved.
yeah. And, so I haven't worked my way up to like sit down restaurant yet, where there's a server who comes to the table. Because I literally ate in my car. I will be like 100% transparent here. I did not sit in the restaurant, but I'm getting there. It's baby steps.
It's not that bad. It's the baby step. But no, it really wasn't bad at all. I just like sat there. I've done that before, but I was like on the phone with a friend or something while I did it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not bad. I think that's something like learning to do stuff by yourself. I don't know. For me, it's not bad once I do it. So I've had situations where I'm like, I just go do something by myself. Like maybe I'm out and I see something and I go do it. So I think doing those little things it ends up being fun, but I think it's just getting out of your head to go do
Yeah.
it because I'm like sitting in the restaurant. It's like nobody's really paying attention to me. Like I think that's what people might think. Like, oh, what if somebody sees you and think you're weird for just sitting down?
Yeah.
But to be honest, nobody's paying attention.
Yeah.
To
Yeah. If
go.
anything, I'm looking at everybody else. Like I am a student of human behavior, so I'll tell you like what employees are not happy. Like who do I need to go bring on my journey with me? I spend a lot of time people watching. But as you think about like finding happiness or your happy place, do you feel like it's a destination that you get to? Because I think a lot of people think like, oh, I can't be happy until I'm successful. I can't be successful until I have like these 10 things and then that's my happy place. Or do you think it's a continual journey that you're on with different levels of momentum?
I would say more of the latter, but a combination of both. Because I
Yeah.
feel like at some point you recognize that it's a continuous thing. So the destination is not like, all right, I've reached there, but it's like I'm at that stage kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm at
Yeah.
that stage in my life where I'm like, all right, I'm going to choose to be intentional about finding my happy place or doing more things that brings me joy.
Yeah.
I'm saying the stage that you reach is the destination, but it's also a continuous thing of like, all right, I'm gonna be intentional, and this is part of my life. And so earlier
Hmm.
I talked about like soft life. Like I always tell my friend, I'm in my soft life stage. I'm all about convenience. I'm all
Yeah.
about enjoying myself, doing fun things, doing stuff that I want to do. So I think it's more of both. So, and I also agree with the success thing. Sometimes you need to be successful so you don't have to worry about certain things to be able to do the things that you enjoy. I'm huge on money brings happiness. I'm one of those people that feels like you need money to help with the happiness. And so
Yeah.
it's like having like being in a good job where you're like, all right, I can financially afford even if it's just going to sit out in a restaurant, and I'm not gonna feel like it's the end of the world because I just spent this amount of money on lunch to sit at a restaurant. That's a huge part of it. So, but also, if you don't have money, that doesn't mean like it's the end of the world and you can't find your happy place. It
Right.
differs for everybody. To somebody, money is nothing and doesn't matter in how they live their life or like them being happy and stuff like that. To somebody who's just spending time with people they care about or like just going for a walk on the beach or like just doing simple things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like to everybody is different. So I think it's a bit of like both of like being like when you talked about mindset, I think that's a huge part of it. A huge
Yeah.
part. All right, I'm gonna be intentional. this is how I'm gonna live my life. This is what I want to do moving forward and stuff like that. So Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, it helped. Like, I think it's a continual process because, like, I've been on it up and down and sideways and every which way. I think, like, one of the hardest parts for me earlier on, especially before therapy, was like when you're in the valleys. Like, I used to really be in the valleys. So when you hear like it happens in threes, or somebody will be like, oh, it can't get much worse, or God doesn't give you what you can't handle. And I'm like, well, he has not seen me lately because I'm like getting evicted. It's, Thanksgiving, my credit's shot. Like, literally, these are things that have happened to me in my life. And I
Mhm.
got 2 kids, and my apartment is literally packed, and I have no idea where we're going to go. And it is very, very hard to find your happy place in that moment,
Right.
or to even realize when the happy place hits. Because I randomly found a real estate agent who was like, I know a guy who owns a building and he's on vacation till January 1st. So if we get your application in right now, his assistant won't look at the credit score, and because they want to get the units filled. And, I walked through an apartment that I was so like down in the valley, I didn't even look at until the day we moved in. And I was like, oh my, like, this is actually a nice place. I had like 5 days to get out, and miraculously we found a place in that time. But those are the moments where I think it's super hard to realize that you've hit a happy place, right? Because I was so deep in the scarring of we have no place to live. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
That I didn't even see like the some of the blessings and the beautiful place that we ended up moving into and all of that kind of stuff. So that's why I feel like it's a continual journey, and you have to continue to like correct yourself, or reevaluate where you're positioned. And then
Mhm.
also, one of my biggest lessons learned about finding my happy place is be happy with what I have,
Mm.
right? Because you can look around. So I don't do a lot of social media. I do social media for like my book and business stuff and things like that. But I don't sit on social media. Very, very rarely do you see me like doom scrolling or whatever they call it. Because what I realized a few years ago is you look at those things and you start to think, at least for me, like, why don't I have that house? Like, why don't I have that car? Like, I've gone to school, I have 4 degrees, I do this, I do that, I'm working for a job. And you then kind of get into this spiral.
Mhm.
And so from a standpoint of like just stepping back and appreciating what I have, is another mechanism to help me kind of get to my happy place. Because it's very easy to think about all of the things you don't have, you should have, you could have, all of the mistakes you've made, the jobs that were bad. Like, there's all of these things that you can think in your mind. And for my mind in particular, I can't speak for other people's, because I have such a loud voice of negative self-talk, it actually pulls me down like pretty far. And
Mhm.
so, part of when I went on this like self-reflection, whatever I'm doing, my journey to find my happy place, I realized a couple things. One, I have to stop caring about what other people do, what they say, how they feel about me, if they like me or if they don't like me, if they have an attitude or if they don't have an attitude with me, because that
Mhm.
was weighing on me. And then two, I had to just start appreciating what I have and appreciating the accomplishments that I've made. And some people will hear this and they'll think, because like looking from the outside, people might think like she has it all, right? Or this person has it all, but you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors.
Yep.
And so I learned to appreciate what I have and not look outside to figure out where I'm supposed to be, but to craft my own plan that I can work to get to where I think I'm supposed to be. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm on my way.
Yep, yep. Everyone's journey is different. You never know how people get to where they got to. So I think that's the word for sure. That's
Yeah,
a huge point you're making.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
I think the determination, right? Like, I am determined to be happy.
Right.
Whatever that happiness means for me, it can even be, I laugh because my daughter and I watch a show called Zombie House Flipping. And like right now we're watching Tiny House Hunters. And like that's another source of my joy, right? Is my children. And last year she was diagnosed with a complex regional pain syndrome, and we've had like a really rough year for her. Lots of high pain tests, trying to figure out what's going on. Finally got the medication right. And I look at her, and even in like all of her pain, she still smiles, right? Or she will encourage me, or she'll say, like, you look stressed. Let's watch an episode of Zombie House Flipping or whatever. And old Melonie would have overlooked that as like a source of happiness. But now new me is like, yes, let's absolutely, after I'm done with work, watch a few episodes. We always fall asleep. It never fails. We never see any part of the first episode. We always fall asleep. But those again are those moments that I am creating for myself just to be reminded of like what happiness looks like for me, because I still have the negative self-talk issue. Like that, it's more quiet than it's ever been before. But
Mhm.
I still have that every once in a while. And so, yeah, as you're on this journey, determination, like because the determination gets you through the down times, right? Or when you feel like everything is falling apart. Like I am determined to not be in this specific place forever. And so, yeah, I just rambled on, but I'll try not to get on any soapboxes here. So let's see. Are there any specific, I know we talked about this a little bit, but are there any specific like practices or rituals that you incorporate into the daily life to maintain a sense of joy and fulfillment?
Outside of watching TV show after work
Yeah.
is one of them. So
Yep.
just yeah, I'd say watching TV shows. Every year I try to go to a concert. So I think
Okay.
that's the thing where I'm like, all right, I gotta have to go to a concert of some form every year. I always have to travel. So I think for me, it's like there's some daily stuff. There's some like plan ahead a month or a year stuff to kind
Yeah.
of find that happiness or do things that bring me joy or that I enjoy. Once in a while, so I'll order food. So like maybe like a few times a month, I'm like, all right, I'm not cooking. I'm gonna order food because that kind of brings me joy. Sometimes the little thing,
Yeah.
so stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I feel like it's just being intentional about these things. So yeah. How
Yeah.
about you?
I, my biggest thing is I don't let anyone steal my joy. And people are
Mm,
super quick if you are surrounded by the wrong people to steal your
yeah.
joy. And it can
Mhm.
be a conversation. It can be, kind of like a underhanded kind of comment about something that's said with a smile, but then makes you question things. And so I have unfortunately become the queen of cutting people off. And I know that friendships are meaningful. I got some real strong friendships, which 10 years ago I would have said I have no friends, but I have some real strong friendships that have developed over the past 10 years, and they all really understand me. They get it. I may not call you for 6 months, but when I do, it'll be like we never, stopped talking, or we've talked every day. But I
Mhm.
did learn that in the midst of like my joy, or when I'm trying to celebrate something, there were some people around me that they would either turn it into something about themselves, or they would turn it into something that they always wanted to achieve but didn't. And then it caused me to kind of step back and say, well, maybe I shouldn't talk about these things that I do, or I should. If you can't talk about you with people, they're not your people. And it took me a
Okay.
minute to realize that. And so, yeah, so I don't let anybody steal my joy. I tell you, it could be a work thing, it could be a client, it could even be my husband at this point, and we've been together since 1995. And I'll be like, look, I'm going to the room and I'm gonna need some space, right? Because I can't do none of this over here. And he appreciates the honesty, I think. I'm gonna have him on one day. We'll try to do an episode with him and we'll see how that turns out. But I have just become vocal about like, I will not let you steal my joy for real. Like, I'm going to be happy about the things that I'm happy about. I'm going to be excited about the things that I accomplish. I'm going to be frustrated about the things that I don't, but I'm going to be determined to make them happen. It may take me a while, but I'm going to be determined to make them happen. And that, like, the not caring and not allowing people to steal my joy have been the two most profound shifts in my ability to find my happy place.
Mm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and if anybody is listening to this who I did actually stop talking to, apologies in advance, but I have to, focus on me. And I think I spent a lot of years focusing on others, but it's really important that I focus on me. And I feel a little bit like that's selfish. Um, and then I remind myself that it's not. Because I'm not like being mean to others, right? I'm not like punishing. I'm not trying to steal anybody's joy. If you want to celebrate, like I'm the one to call because I celebrate the small things, it doesn't matter what it is. I try to celebrate it. But like those are my two kind of fundamental things that I put into practice every day is not caring and then not letting people steal my joy. And when I say I don't care, like I care deeply about so many things. I don't let the negative things impact me. So that's where the not caring comes in. And so, we were talking earlier about the guy at the airport who nearly pushed me out the way at Dunkin' Donuts because he was like, that's one of the things I don't have to care about. I moved out the way. I let him get his coffee. He went on about his business and got his flight. I got my baby girl her donuts and then went to my Uber and came home. And those are the things that like I just let go of a lot of the small things and some of the big things too. Like, you don't like me? Okay, now I'm gonna be all right. My husband likes me. My sisters like me. Yayra likes me. Like, the important people like me. So that's all that matters. Yeah. So, uh, let's see. So let me think. So, so when things are, when you're down, right? Like when you're not winning and when things aren't going right, how do you pull yourself back up?
I usually take a step back. I think the self talk kind of thing comes into play a
Yep.
lot for me. So when I'm down, I'm like, all right, why am I down? Like thinking about if it's something that can be fixed right away, or like if it's something even in my control. Sometimes you're down and you're like, this thing is not even in your control. So I'm always like, all right, give yourself a time to be sad about it. Like if it's like, all right, today I'm just gonna be sad about it, but then tomorrow we can't continue to be sad about this thing. It's either we're gonna be proactive and then work towards like making it better, or we're just gonna let it go kind of thing. And sometimes it takes some days for you to get out of that. All right, I'm sad about this thing or this thing sucks. But I think it's just being proactive about like what is going on, what is keeping you down. Because once it gets faced, then it's like, all right, it gets like things get better. But I think it's okay to be like, all right, I'm upset about this thing. This thing sucks. I'm gonna
Yep.
vent about it. Sometimes I'll call a friend and just vent about the situation and talk it out with that person, and then maybe like the next day or as time goes on, then I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do? Because sometimes like things just don't work out, and
Yeah.
that's just life. Like one of my mottos is everything happens for a reason. I may not know the reason, but there's probably a reason why things happen. And sometimes it's just moving past it. So when I'm down, it's like taking time to vent. Sometimes you need a good distraction, so
Yeah.
would play games or watch TV or do something for a good distraction. And if it's something you can solve, then I'll solve it. If it's something that is out of my control, then just move past it and on to the next thing, on to the next and better thing.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I sometimes will give myself a time limit. Like I feel like sometimes you should just be able to be in your feelings
Right.
and like it's gonna be okay, like to just be in it. And so sometimes I'll say, like, I'm giving you like 48 hours to be all in it, sad, crying, like whatever you need to do, and then move to action, right? Like, what are the things that you do to either prevent this mistake or whatever it is from happening again? Or
Yeah.
what is the plan B through Z, right? If plan A doesn't work, like what are all of the options that you have? And so that's been like very helpful because I used to say, like, when my mom passed away, I was telling my therapist, I don't want to get stuck in it. And she kept asking me, like, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't want to get stuck in the darkness because I know I have the potential to stay there for a really long time. So I need to put a time frame. Now with my mom dying, it was a longer time frame. Slept on the sofa for 3 weeks straight and took off work and, kind of did. But I allowed myself to grieve. I allowed myself to be in it. I allowed all of those things. And I wasn't better, right? On week 4, I'm still not good with it. We were on the phone 10, 20 times a day, every day. She lived down the street, all of those things. But giving myself, like, one, acknowledging that I don't want to get lost in it was huge. And then giving myself the opportunity to kind of work through what I needed to, and then to slowly progress and come out of it was very big for me. And I actually was proud of myself for being able to come out of it, right? Because when things like that happen, it's very easy to kind of get stuck there and, you can't figure out which way to go. And I think another thing is talking to people, which is not something that I often do. I keep a lot of things in. Not no more. Like, I tell my husband everything. I think between my perimenopause symptoms and all kinds of stuff, I think he's tired of hearing me talk. Now, and that's part of, like, how do I find my happy place? I can't keep all of this stuff inside, and I can't keep walking around like the sad clown where I'm smiling on the outside and I'm breaking on the inside, because that's destructive to me. And so, now, like I said, I might overshare. I'm trying to regulate all of these things, because when it's new to you, you go like to too many, you like go to the extreme. So I'm slowly trying to
Yeah.
find the happy medium with it. I think if I tell him about my hot flashes one more time, he's gonna be like, okay, get out. Or if I yell at him, like, oh, that's my bad. Like, that's not me. That's those hormones. I'm sorry. But honestly, like, it has helped me tremendously to be able to share those things. And also, that allows for people to care for you, which I've never left space for people to care for me. And so now he puts the fan my way at night because he knows that I'm going to be in a pool of sweat. Or, it's like just the little things, right? My sisters, I tell them some things too, and they're more supportive of me in my journey. I'm getting there with friends. I'm trying, but it's hard to be closed off your entire, like, 40 some years of your life and then be a completely open book. But like, that self reflection and the self work that it takes to find your happy place, like, we cannot discount that, because it really is on you. And if you're looking for external factors to make you happy, or other people, it's going to be a challenging trip.
Agreed. Yeah, you have to do the work yourself to find it. And
Yes.
sometimes, like, being social, like you said, like talking to people helps you with all these things. Maybe your happy place is like going to an event where people are there or spending time with your friends. But to find that, you have to be like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to open myself up and be vulnerable, or I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and go do this thing. So I agree. Like, it's all in yourself. You have to do the work no matter what it is.
Yes, yes, yes. So we have talked a lot, Yaira and I, about what we've done, but now I just want to give a few data-backed tips on what you can do to find your happy place. And so the first thing is acknowledging that it is a deeply personal kind of journey, right? Yaira, you just said that you have to do the work yourself. There needs to be some self-reflection, right? You've got to take the time to really think about what truly brings you joy and fulfillment, and then rethink it again. Because the first things that come to mind for me are reading books, going back to school to get another degree, but that is not it, right? So I had to keep iterating on what does my happy place list look like. The next thing, I'm no good at this, but I'm going to say it because everybody says it helps, is mindfulness practice. I cannot turn off my brain. So meditation does not work as well for me. But if you incorporate some of the mindfulness techniques, such as meditation or deep breathing, I do deep breathing, that actually does help, or yoga, like, these practices can help you create a sense of peace. The deep breathing, especially, like, I'm very quick to take some deep breaths just to, like, especially with my anxiety, because now that I know what the signs are of my anxiety coming on, or I was having panic attacks for a while, and thankfully I have not had those in a few years. but I will use deep breathing to help through those situations. Another one is connecting with nature. That is so fundamentally important. Spending time outside, the sun, the fresh air, like taking a walk, all of those things can get the body kind of moving and they can literally like soothe the soul. If you take opportunities, no telephone, no music, just kind of like being out and feeling and actually experiencing nature and the world around you. um, Another tip you can do is like nurture relationships. So we've talked about this here, how I, have connected with my husband in a different way so he better understands what's going on. I've connected with my sisters in a different way. I'm working on my friends, I promise. I'm gonna get there one day. But knowing that these relationships and when you surround yourself by supportive people, like my two sisters I'm the baby. So my oldest two sisters are amazing. Like they're my cheerleaders, they're my advocates. They will meet you out back if you hurt me in any type of way, shape, or form. And I have really strong and powerful friends who also support me and support my ideas. Yayra being one of them. That's how we've led to this podcast and books and businesses and all kinds of good stuff. The next thing is practicing gratitude. And so cultivating an attitude of gratitude by like regularly reflecting on the things again, like appreciating what you have, appreciating others, keeping a gratitude journal is a good way to help support that. Acknowledging your blessings and just being thankful for things, celebrating yourself. I think you can show gratitude to yourself. We often forget to be compassionate, to show ourselves grace, and to show ourselves gratitude. And then also setting boundaries. So setting boundaries was huge for me a few years ago. And I didn't realize how much I was doing that was draining my energy and draining me physically and emotionally until I started setting boundaries. I will caution here too that you may go way too far on the boundary spectrum because I did. And I was like, I'm not doing nothing for nobody. It's all about me. And I've now like found the midpoint or whatever with the boundaries, but man, did it feel good once I started doing it. Like I don't have to, it sounds bad, but I'm a little bit controlling and the refrigerator has to look a certain way. So I have to put up all the grocery, the cabinets have to do this and everything has a way and it's my way. All of that kind of thinking led to me doing way too much, other people not doing enough, people asking because it's easier for Melonie to do it. Literally, people say that about me. And so setting those boundaries was hugely important. We've talked about the engaging in activities that bring you joy. And if you don't know what those activities are, keep looking until you find them. It can be travel. It can be at home reading a book. It can be me in my bed with my 8 pillows. Actually, I have 10 pillows, but some of them are decorative.
Actually,
Um,
that's but good to know.
No, I love my pillows. I have one like my head, two on my side, one under my leg. But really, like finding those activities that bring you joy. I love being with my kids, and I love being at home and getting on my husband's nerves. Like we've been together since 1995, and so he needs me to get on his nerves. I don't think he'd be able to function without it. And so that is one of the activities that brings me great joy, right? um, Practicing self-care. There's like 10 here, you all. I'm trying to give you all enough to pick and choose from. But practicing self-care is really important. And that could be the walking in nature. It could be the massage. I actually just got a massage chair thing from Amazon that you put it in your regular chair and it massages your neck all the way down to your butt. And it's like amazing. And I do it. It's like automatic for 15 minutes a day. And it has changed my world. I do it every morning when I wake up to work out some of the overnight kinks. And this one I love, like embrace your imperfections, embrace who you are. Like I tell people, I'm going to show up who and how I am, and I will accept everybody else for that too. But when I mess up, when something goes wrong, like I just embrace it. Like it's just me. I'm going to forget some things. I'm going to forget a lot of things. I'm going to be very good at my job, but then not at paying attention to detail. Like I just embraced all of my quirks. And once I started doing that, it really did make me feel better about myself. And then the final thing is, seeking professional help. We cannot stress enough how important mental health is. And there are trained professionals out there who can help you. And you may think that you're helping yourself, or like my sisters are not helping me. I love them, right? Like, and they're going to push me up on the highest pedestals possible, but they do not have the training to help me manage panic attacks or anxiety or negative self-talk spirals or any of the other things that we have gone through. Some people have more trauma than what I've had, but everybody has their level of trauma that they've gone through growing up. And so the final one, like if you're struggling to find your happy place, working with a professional has changed my life, right? Since 2016, almost however many years that is, 10 years, has really changed my life. Did I leave anything out, Yayra?
All of it. Positive interventions. Yeah.
Yes.
You covered
Yeah.
all of that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And so, any parting words, Yayra, for those who are trying to find their happy place and on this journey with us?
Pick some of what Melonie just talked about and do them for yourselves and be intentional about them is what I'll say. Because you list, like you said, they're scientifically backed and those are some things to bring you happiness and joy. So pick some of those things, figure it out for yourself and do them to bring you that joy and happiness.
Yes. And I want to thank everyone for joining us for this episode on finding your happy place. It is possible. I am proof that it is possible. I've worked through a lot of things to get on this side of it, and it feels pretty good. And so, if we can help everybody else get there too, we are more than happy to share this with others, share it with your friends and family. And I believe like as a community, we can build each other up, and that's super important. So the more that we share and care for others, the better off our society will be. So thank you for joining Yayra and I for this episode of Intel Noir.